Dark Shadows, number 90, BTR 10-19-66, air 10-28-66, take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. As an orphan in a foundling home, I became accustomed to making decisions without guidance. I have now been forced to decide whether or not I should leave Collinwood. And part of the answer lies in the mind of a small boy.
What are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing?
Looks like you're packing your things to go away.
That's what you wanted, isn't it?
Well, that's what I said I wanted.
You said, and I think I'm quoting you pretty closely. You said, I hate you. You said, if you die, I won't even come to your funeral. You said, I hope you stay in that locked room for the rest of your life.
Did I say that?
You certainly did.
I didn't mean it. Not all of it.
Really? What part didn't you mean, David?
Well, if you died, I would come to your funeral.
Well, I suppose that's something. Why would you come to my funeral?
Because I like funerals.
What is there about funerals that you like?
Everything. I used to play a game about a funeral, all by myself. Sometimes I would be the dead person, sometimes I would be a mourner, and sometimes I would be the preacher, and sometimes I would be all of them.
Who is the dead person supposed to be?
My father.
Well, that certainly is a morbid game.
Is it any worse than going around shooting people? Bang, 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 bang. You're dead?
Oh, so you don't approve of shooting people?
Well, not particularly. I think there's a better way.
Like trying to scare them to death.
What's that supposed to mean?
Your father said he scolded you for locking me in that room last night.
I didn't know you were in it.
How can you stand there and tell me such a lie?
It's the truth. I thought you had already left.
Then why did you yell out, I hope you stay in there until you die?
But I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the ghosts.
What ghosts?
Well, there are two of them. One is Josette Collins. There's another girl, but I don't know her name.
No, David, there aren't two of them. There are three of them.
Well, all I ever saw was two.
Didn't anybody tell you what I saw?
No. What did you see?
I saw the ghost of Bill Malloy.
I don't believe it.
All right, David, you don't have to believe it. I know I didn't believe you when you told me about your ghosts, but I do believe now.
What did he do? Did he talk to you?
Yes, he talked to me. He told me to leave Collinwood.
Oh, but you can't leave now.
Why not?
Just can't, that's all. You just can't.
Well, that's why I'm packing, because I thought you wanted me to leave.
That was before I knew.
Before you knew what?
You had seen a ghost. Besides me, you're the only person that ever has.
What difference should that make?
Well, if they let themselves be seen by you, then that means they like you and they want you to stay.
Oh, no. He told me to leave before I was killed the way he was.
And that means that his death wasn't an accident. I knew it all the time. He was murdered.
makes you say that?
Well, if it had been an accident, well, he wouldn't have come back. It's the same way with Josette Collins. She didn't fall off Widow's Hill. Somebody pushed her.
Well, that was more than 100 years ago.
Mr. Malloy's ghost will keep coming back for 100 years until they find out who killed him. You must know something about it.
No, I don't.
Well, you could know and not even know it.
That's nonsense.
No, it isn't either. Please, Miss Winters, don't leave Collinwood.
But I can't stay.
But I want you to stay. Because I want you to stay.
Oh,
Did I just hear right? David, are you begging Vicky not to leave Collinwood?
Yes, she has to stay.
You did say you'd leave it up to David, Vicky.
Well, this is for an entirely different reason.
She saw Mr. Malloy's ghost. You can call me anything you want. You can beat me till I'm black and blue, but please make Miss Winters stay here.
That's exactly why I came in here. Now, why don't you leave us alone, David?
I'll do anything you say. Please, Miss Winters.
Wow. What brought all that on?
Well, it would seem that any friend of a ghost is a friend of David's.
Now, Vicky, it's broad daylight. You're not locked up in that room, and there's no thunder and lightning, right?
Right?
So now that you think back on it, did you really see a ghost? Or were you just dreaming?
Well, I may have been dreaming. But what I saw was real. Oh, I don't mean it that way. It was unreal and supernatural. But even if I was dreaming, I certainly didn't dream that seaweed on the floor.
He left seaweed on the floor?
Mm-hmm. I wrote it all down. I'll show you.
The first thing I was aware of was a harsh voice singing an old sea chanty. What will you do with a drunken sailor? That was Bill Malloy's favorite song.
Well, then that proves something, doesn't it?
I guess so. But I'm not sure what.
Why are you changing the lock on that door, Matthew?
Because Miss Stoddard told me to.
Why?
A lock is supposed to keep nosy people out of places they aren't supposed to be in.
Well, who would want to go in the creepy old closed-off section of the house anyway?
Evidently, Miss Winters must have wanted to.
What do you mean?
Miss Stoddard told me that Miss Winters got back there somehow and locked herself in one of those rooms by mistake.
Is that what she said?
She did.
Well, then I guess that must be what happened.
Oh, I couldn't imagine. What are you doing, Matthew?
I'm replacing the lock on this door, Miss Stoddard's orders.
Why?
Evidently, there were too many loose keys to this old lock.
Oh. Vicky, you did say you'd leave it up to David.
I know. It was very silly of me. I'd hoped that he might secretly want me to stay.
He does want you to stay. I just heard him begging you. He was practically on his hands and knees.
It had nothing to do with me. It was the ghost. And that's no reason.
Well, then what about your search? What about trying to find out who you are? Who your parents were? Are you just going to give that up, too?
No. I'll never give that up. I'll just have to try looking someplace else. Actually, I haven't learned one thing here that I didn't already know.
But you might.
Carolyn, I like you. I really do. You're a very nice person.
No, I'm not. I'm selfish and thoughtless and scatterbrained. And if I weren't all those things, I'd be urging you to leave Collinwood, too. So I guess I'm more selfish than anything else.
Matthew, you better come and see what I just found.
What?
Well, on the stairs going downstairs, the rug is too loose and somebody's liable to trip and break their neck.
Maybe I'd better have a look at it.
The ghost said distinctly that he had been murdered, and that the murderer was someone who lived in Collinsport. Then it said that the same thing might happen to me. Now, you wouldn't like to see that happen, would you?
Of course not. I just can't believe it.
If only there was some way we could get back into that room, then I could show you.
There is a way.
What do you mean?
Well, Matthew's nowhere around, and he hasn't put the lock back in the door yet. Except, I'm not exactly wild about going back there.
Well, you said you didn't believe, so if you don't, there's nothing to be afraid of, is there?
No.
Mr. Malloy, or the ghost of Mr. Malloy. He was wearing the same clothes in which I had last seen him. He was soaking wet, as though he just dredged up from his watery grave. There was seaweed hanging from his shoulders. It was the most horrible sight I have ever seen in my life. Matthew, what if there's somebody inside there?
There isn't.
But what if there was? Could they get out after you put the new lock on?
You ask too many questions.
Matthew, do you believe in ghosts?
I don't believe or disbelieve.
You want me to tell you why you're putting that lock on the door?
You don't have to tell me. I'm putting it on there because Miss Stoddard told me to.
But do you know why?
I don't care why.
Well, I'll tell you anyway. My Aunt Elizabeth didn't ask you to put it on just to keep people from getting in, but also maybe to keep ghosts from getting out.
What ghosts?
The ghost Miss Winters saw last night.
Whose ghost did she see?
It was a ghost of Mr. Malloy.
You sure? Is that what she said?
Well, it doesn't matter what she said.
Matters to me. What did she say?
Matthew, you're hurting my arm.
What did she say?
Well, she said that the ghost told her about the night when Mr. Malloy was murdered.
It couldn't be. The sheriff and the coroner, they both said it was an accidental drowning.
But that isn't what the ghost said.
What else did the ghost say?
Well, I don't remember it all. But it did say that somebody killed Mr. Malloy. You know, I thought so all along, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I didn't think anything about it at all.
Listen, Matthew. Before you finish putting the lock in, why don't you let me take you inside to see the room?
What room?
The room that Mr. Malloy's ghost came to visit Miss Winters in.
I wouldn't like that at all.
How do you know, Matthew? Maybe it's still in there.
No, I don't want to.
Wouldn't you like to talk to Mr. Malloy again?
Why should I?
Well, maybe he would tell you who killed him.
slipped and fell. Nobody killed him. So I got too much to do. Stand here and listen to your foolish stories.
They aren't foolish stories, either. Besides, I think someone's back there right now.
That's impossible.
In this house, nothing is impossible.
This is the place. And here is the key that was so thick it wouldn't fit under the door.
Do you really think we should go in there?
Well, we're here now. And just to be on the safe side, I'm going to hang on to this.
This is where you were?
I must admit, though, it doesn't look quite as bad in daylight.
It's horrible in any kind of light. Vicky, I would have just died.
I almost did. When that candle went out, and there was no more light in here, I thought it was the end. I finally fell asleep from exhaustion.
Vicky, if you fell asleep, then everything else might have been something you dreamed.
Oh, no. The storm woke me up. I remember being awake. I remember the thunder, and the lightning, and Mr. Malloy standing right there. Right here, he was dripping with seaweed.
I don't see any seaweed.
Well, I don't understand. I'm sure there was some here when I left.
Vicky, maybe the whole thing, I mean every bit of it, was just a part of the dream you had.
Maybe. But it was no dream when I couldn't get this key under the door.
How could you do that?
Well, I thought if I slid a piece of paper under the door, I'll show you. I don't see what good that would do. Well, you will. Then I took a hairpin out, and I poked at the pin through, I poked at the key through there, so that it would fall on the paper, and I would pull the paper back underneath. You see. I don't understand. It wouldn't come through last night. If it had, I could have unlocked the door and gotten away.
Maybe you weren't supposed to.
Why?
I don't know why, Vicky. Let's just get out of here.
Carolyn, have you ever heard of a firm called Garner and Garner?
Sure, they're my mother's lawyers in Bangor. Why?
There seems to be some kind of a ledger sheet.
What about it?
This name, B. Hanscom. I know it. At least I think I do. I don't know what to think. This could be the clue I've been waiting for.
Then there's a reason for you to stay at Collinwood.
I don't know. All I know is that I'm very confused.
Vicky, can we go now?
Gladly.
What are you doing? Spying on us?
No, honest I wasn't. I was just worried when I saw you go in the secret door.
I'm tired of being spied on by a miniature police force.
I wasn't worried about you. I was worried about Miss Winters.
David, are you actually beginning to like me?
Miss Winters, I love you.
Has David ever said that about anything or anyone before? Yes. Once when he lived in Augusta, he had a little kitten he told me he loved. Oh? What happened to it? He drowned it.
Suspense, danger, and uninhibited romance. See The Prize, starring Paul Newman and Elka Summer. It's the Sunday night movie in color, here on ABC. Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production.